They called Earth a storage error that learned to breathe. Admiral Kethron observed the blue-green sphere from the quiet authority of the Council flagship's command cradle, hands folded, fronds relaxed. 30,000 years since loss of contact. 30,000 years of custodial neglect. The probability models had been clear. Indigenous caretakers would regress, mythologize the relics, maybe dismantle a few hull plates for shelter. That was acceptable. That was expected. The retrieval docket hovered in his peripheral vision, already half-filled. Asset designation, exploration vessel, 12A. Status, mislaid during pre-council expansion. Current location, Sol 3 orbit, surface adjacent. Reclamation priority, low. Resistance forecast, negligible. A primitive species had inherited a museum. Long-range scans resolved the planet's orbital clutter. Kithron allowed himself a thin pulse of amusement. Chemical rockets, fragmented satellites, energy signatures that flared and died like sparks in vacuum. Their population had reached into the billions, yes, but numbers without refinement meant nothing. The Council had processed worlds with 10 times the biomass and a fraction of the hesitation. Transmit. Standard notice, he said. Tier 7 civility, no concessions. The message packet assembled itself, heavy with legal precedent. Custodial termination clauses, salvage rights, a reminder that compliance reduced casualty projections by 94.2%. The words were gentle. The meaning was not, they would comply. They always did. A junior tactician shifted, mandibles tight. Admiral, surface traffic is organized. Formation launches. Kethron did not turn. Animals scatter when light enters the den. The first human vessels cleared atmosphere in disciplined arcs, not the frantic dispersal he expected. 70 contacts resolved, then 67, massing instead of fleeing. Their hulls were blunt, armored, inelegant. No filigree, no harmonic glow, just weight. Kethron felt a flicker of irritation. They bring relics to a retrieval, he said. Charming. One of the human ships advanced a narrow beam transmission. Not a plea, not a demand. A statement of presence, flat and unadorned. The translators parsed it instantly. This world is occupied. The bridge was quiet. Kethron tasted something sour and unfamiliar. He dismissed it. Log non-compliance, he ordered. Initiate compliance demonstration. 1 volley, minimal. Yield. The Council fleet shifted with balletic grace. 10,000 hulls adjusting vectors within a tolerance of meters, weapons arrays blooming with controlled radiance. This was the lesson phase, the part where history repeated itself. Fire. Light crossed the void. Coherent energy tuned to overwhelm primitive shielding, to collapse cities without cracking crusts. Kethron watched the wave converge on the leading human formation and prepared the follow-on notice. Escalation authorized, processing to begin. The light struck. It did not end. Sensors chirped. Not alarms, questions. Energy did not disperse as modeled. It bled sideways, folded, vanished, into fields that should not exist at that scale. Readout spiked, then flattened. Report, Kethron said, his voice precise. The tactician swallowed. Impact registered. Penetration. 0. Energy loss at 98.7%. Silence held the bridge. That should have worked. 1. Human ship advanced another kilometer, steady as a closing door. The retrieval docket flickered, its certainty dimming. Some errors did not want to be corrected. They answered with a sentence that did not ask permission. The transmission carried. No flourish, no anthem, no attempt at equivalence. A human voice, steady and unraised, crossed the vacuum and settled into the Council's translators like a locked bearing. It named the planet, its orbit, its people. Then it set a boundary. This world is occupied. Admiral Kethron let the silence stretch. The phrase was crude, almost pastoral. Custodial species sometimes attempted territorial claims before processing. It reduced panic metrics. He lifted a frond, signaling the legal cadre to respond. The reply unfurled as doctrine. Precedent stacked upon precedent. 30 millennia of Council authority compressed into clean clauses, and polite inevitability. The planet was classified as a heritage site. The relic ship was sovereign property. Indigenous governance was acknowledged, then dismissed. Compliance would begin in 12 minutes. Non-compliance would escalate through 5 tiers, each annotated with casualty curves and liability waivers. It was, by any reasonable measure, merciful. The humans did not interrupt. They did not jam. They did not posture. Their ships held station, in a measured distance, thousands of light seconds out, forming a flat, utilitarian wall. No energy flares, no target locks broadcast. Just mass arranged with intent. A second transmission returned, this one routed through open channels. It was meant to be heard. We acknowledge receipt, the voice said. We refuse. Kethron's mandibles tightened. On what authority? He asked, allowing the question to pass unfiltered. On occupancy, the human replied. On habitation, on survival. The legal cadre injected a supplemental packet, sharp-edged now. It cited the Council's mandate to reclaim lost assets. It cited the inefficiency of resistance. It cited numbers until the numbers blurred into threat. In countdown glyph appeared in the shared channel, bright and undeniable. T-10-1, the human ships adjusted by fractions of a degree, not away, together. Kethron studied their hulls again. Layered armor, redundant frames, kinetic scars that scanners translated into history. These were not ceremonial guardians. These were working vessels, crews drilled into muscle memory, crews that had expected to be shot. The human voice returned, unchanged. We will not fire first. A pause. Then the addendum, delivered without heat. But we will not move. A junior officer whispered casualty projections, 70 vessels against 10,000. Survival time estimates measured in seconds. Kethron waved them down. He addressed the channel one final time, his tone immaculate. By council law, your refusal constitutes hostile obstruction. You have 9 minutes. Remove your ships. Surrender the relic. Preserve your population. The reply came faster than before. We've read your law. To -0812, the human formation locked. A line became a plane became a barrier. We are not requesting terms. Kethron felt the unfamiliar sensation sharpen. Irritation, yes, but beneath it, something colder. The species did not sound afraid. They sounded resolved. The countdown continued, bright and ticking, T-07:59. For the first time since taking the cradle, Admiral Kethron wondered why a custodial species had learned to count time like this. The first volley was designed to end the discussion. Admiral Kethron authorized it without raising his voice. A controlled demonstration, Tier 1 escalation. Enough power to burn through primitive shielding. Enough restraint to leave cities intact. The Council fleet executed the command with inherited perfection. 10,000 emitters aligning, phasing, singing into coherence. Space brightened. Energy. Crossed the distance in disciplined sheets, collapsing the void between fleets measured in thousands of light seconds. The models ran in parallel, predicting shield failure in 0.8 seconds, hull breach in 1.3, silence shortly after. The human formation did not scatter. They did not brace. The wave struck. For a fraction of a heartbeat, Kethron felt satisfaction. Then the satisfaction failed to resolve, impact registered across the human line, and then slid. The energy did not detonate. It bent, smeared, and vanished into layered fields that behaved nothing like Council doctrine. Readouts spiked, then bled downward in clean, impossible curves. Report, Kethron said. The answer came, fractured. Absorption confirmed. Rerouting observed. Loss rate, 98.7%. A pause, then disbelief. Residual heat vented. No shield collapse. The light faded. The human ships were still there, unmarked, unbroken. On the shared channel, the countdown glyph continued its indifferent march, T-0712. Kethron leaned forward. Repeat scan. Verify interference. Sensors swept again. The same result. The human vessels had not merely resisted the barrage, they had consumed it, bled it off through structures too dense and too inelegant to resonate. Where council ships danced on harmonics, these ships drowned the wave in mass. A second volley was ordered, this one tighter, hotter. The fleet complied. The light returned, brighter, shorter, optimized. It failed faster. Numbers cascaded across. The bridge. Absorption efficiency climbed from 98.7 to 99.1%. Shield integrity on the human side remained static. No flare, no visible strain. That should have worked. Murmurs rippled through the command deck. A junior analyst spoke without being recognized. They're not blocking it. They're draining it. Kethron silenced him with a glance, his attention fixed on the human line. It had shifted, not away but forward. A measured advance. Kilometers gained without broadcast, without urgency. They're closing, someone said. Velocity increasing. The human ships accelerated as one, not the smooth, graceful arcs of council doctrine, but brute thrust applied with discipline. Speed climbed past thresholds marked unsafe for crews that valued elegance over survival. Mach 40, Mach 80, the distance collapsed. Why would they advance into fire? The tactician asked. Kethron did not answer. His focus snagged on a new detail. The human hulls were scarred. Not randomly. Patterned damage. Evidence of repeated impacts survived, not repaired for show. These ships had been hit before. Many times. They had expected this. A transmission cut through open channel, human voice unchanged. Energy fire ineffective, it said. Not a taunt. A transmission cut through, open channel, human voice unchanged. Energy fire ineffective, it said. Not a taunt. A statement. You may cease. Silence followed. The council fleet hung in a tableau of light and doctrine, its opening move exhausted without effect. Confusion crept into the data, then into the bridge itself. The countdown glyph reached 06 corner. Kethron tasted the cold sensation again. Sharper now. The models were wrong. The assumptions were wrong. The custodial species had not waited 30,000 years to be processed. They had been preparing. The human ships continued to close, steady and unhurried, and the space between fleets, once a buffer, became a liability. They crossed the gap like a decision already made. The human formations did not fan out or seek advantage in curvature. It compressed. 70 holes drew inward, engines flaring in unison, thrust profiles spiking past every comfort threshold the council recognized. Acceleration was not concealed. It was declared. Tracking velocities, the tactician said, disbelief leaking into precision. Mach 120 and climbing. Kethron watched elegant council lines begin to deform. Doctrine demanded distance. Energy weapons bloomed best across clean space, where harmonics could breathe. Close-range engagements were inefficient, messy, reserved for species that lacked refinement. The humans erased the distance anyway. Council captains adjusted, widening arcs, attempting to preserve firing envelopes. 10,000 ships moved as one organism, but organisms had inertia. The human advance punched into that inertia like a wedge. The first formation broke, not shattered, collapsed. Ships that required separation to function were forced into proximity. Firing lanes overlapped. Harmonies interfered. Energy emitters throttled back to avoid fratricide. The humans did not slow. A stinger cut through the command deck's audio feed, picked up by an open channel from a human bridge. Closing is the point. Kethron's fronds tightened. Reconfigure, he ordered. Layered withdrawal, restore distance. The order propagated too slowly. The humans were inside optimal range now, hundreds of kilometers, then tens. Sensor resolution sharpened brutally, individual hull plates resolved. Serial, scarring, reinforced prows, shaped not for elegance, but for impact survivability. One council cruiser attempted a lateral burn to escape the collapsing pocket. A human ship adjusted by a fraction of a degree and matched it, acceleration spiking again. Mach 150. The council cruiser's maneuvering field overloaded. It drifted, out of line, a flaw in the pattern. The human ships flowed past it, not firing yet, their momentum carrying them deeper into the formation. They were not chasing kills, they were dismantling geometry. "Contain them," a council captain broadcast, strain bleeding through formality. It was already too late. The human formation split into smaller elements, pairs and trios, each executing tight, brutal turns that ignored the elegant curves council pilots trained for. These ships turned hard, bled speed violently, then reapplied thrust without hesitation. Crews that trusted armor and restraint instead of harmonics. They had trained for this. Distances collapsed to knife range. Energy weapons lost coherence. Targeting solutions lagged behind human vector changes measured in microseconds. The Council fleet, built to dominate at scale, found itself entangled with something that treated scale as a weakness. Another open channel. Human line, flat and factual, cut through the noise. "You're inside our envelope!" A standalone line followed, colder. "This ends quickly." Kethron watched as status icons flickered from green to amber. Not from damage, but from doctrine. Failure. His fleet had not been hit again. It had been rendered ineffective by proximity. "Why design ships like that?" a junior officer whispered. "Because they expect to be here," Kethron thought. "Because they expect to survive it." The humans surged. Again, engines burning with a violence the Council would have deemed wasteful. To them, it was decisive. The space between ships, once the Council's greatest asset, was gone. Close-range alerts chimed across the bridge. Dozens, then hundreds. Kethron issued a final adjustment order, but he knew it would not matter. The humans had rewritten the engagement without asking permission. They had forced the Council into a fight it had never planned for, at distances it had never respected, against ships that treated acceleration not as risk, but as doctrine. And the humans were still not firing. The first kinetic round arrived before the Council realized firing had begun. There was no warning bloom, no harmonic rise, just a mass spike crossing the last kilometers at a fraction of light speed, invisible until it wasn't. The projectile struck a Council cruiser amidships and kept going, armor, field and structure failing in sequence like paperwork processed. "Too late. The cruiser folded." "Impact confirmed," the tactician said, voice gone thin. "In hull breach. Catastrophic." Kethron stared as the ship's icon vanished, replaced by debris vectors and expanding vapor. One ship. Gone. No energy flare, no elegant dissolution, just physics applied without apology. That was one. The human. Ships fired again. Rails thundered silently across space. Dense slugs, smart sharded penetrators, kinetic spears accelerated along tracks built for stress the Council would have labeled fatal. Rounds arrived staggered, not in volleys meant to impress, but in patterns designed to overwhelm point defense by inevitability. 3 more Council ships died in 6 seconds. Missiles followed. Not the ceremonial drones the Council used for pursuit, but thick-bodied warheads packed with guidance stacks and countermeasure vomit. They bloomed into clouds, then resolved into hundreds of independent tracks, each one correcting, learning, closing. Point defenses screamed. Interceptors flared and failed. Missiles struck hulls, then burrowed, detonating only after penetration. Numbers climbed. "Losses at 12, someone said. Then, quieter. Now 19. The humans advanced through their own fire, unbothered. By proximity. Their armor drank debris, their formations flexed to open lanes for rails and missile streams, then closed again, relentless. A Council battleship attempted to power its primary emitter at close range. It managed a partial discharge, enough, to scorch paint and nothing more. A human ship answered, with a single round that punched through the emitter housing and detonated the reactor behind it. The battleship broke in half, a standalone line cut across open channels, human voice unchanged. "We warned you." Then another, colder. "This is kinetic range." Kethron issued emergency dispersal orders, but the geometry was gone. Ships collided, trying to escape firing arcs that no longer existed. Council doctrine demanded spacing. The humans punished it. Nuclear signatures appeared next, not atmospheric weapons. Clean space nukes, tuned for radiation and shock, detonated. inside clustered formations where distance had already failed. White spheres blossomed, then collapsed, shredding hulls and frying systems across kilometers. Casualty counters accelerated. Confirmed losses, 47, the tactician said. No, 56. 72. Kethron felt the bridge tilt as inertial compensators strained. His flagship took a glancing kinetic hit, armor held, but the message was clear. They were not immune. The humans did not cheer. They did not broadcast victory. They fired with the same discipline they had shown advancing, each shot purposeful, each target selected for effect. A junior officer whispered, "They're counting!" They were. Human fire slackened around damaged ships that powered down. Missiles. Diverted. Rail fire shifted away from hulls venting atmosphere and toward those still maneuvering. The pattern was unmistakable. They were killing ships, not crews. Another council cruiser attempted surrender protocols mid-burn. Weapons offline, drives throttled. A human missile curved away at the last moment, detonating harmlessly at range. Different human line cut in, calm and precise. "Power down and hold position. You will not be fired upon." The kill count froze at 103. Silence spread in pockets where there had been fire. Kethron's mandibles trembled, despite his control. His fleet, 10,000 hulls reduced to disordered clusters, wreckage, and survivors in minutes. Against 67 ships that treated mass as law and acceleration as truth. He tasted the cold sensation fully now. It had a name. Understanding, the Dome. Humans held their line amid drifting debris and expanding vapor clouds. Weapons remained hot but disciplined. No pursuit, no extermination. They had demonstrated supremacy. Now they waited. Across the shared channel, a final human statement appeared, stark and unadorned. "Cease fire acknowledged." Then, almost gently, "Surrender is still available." Kethron looked out at the ruin of elegant doctrine and pristine law, broken by counted impacts and deliberate restraint. The fight had not been close. It had been decided the moment physics was allowed to speak. The guns went quiet by human choice. Debris still drifted. Radiation washed outward in thinning shells. Wreckage marked the places where elegant doctrine had failed physics. In that suspended moment, when any victor could have finished the work, the human fleet did something the Council had not modeled. It spoke to everyone. The broadcast did not target the remaining Council ships alone. It was wideband, unencrypted, translated automatically into every recognized trade language. Relays carried it outward at light speed, bouncing through observation posts, merchant convoys, neutral stations. Across the spiral, eyes turned. A human official appeared on screen, framed simply. No rank display, no national sigils. The voice was the same one that had drawn the line earlier. Calm, measured, unmoved by the wreckage behind it. "This engagement is paused," the voice said. "Not concluded." Council commanders exchanged confused signals. Paused was not a recognized state. The human continued. "We will state our terms and our limits. These apply now, and they apply everywhere. Data packets unfurled alongside." The voice. Not weapons profiles, not threats. Law, articles of conduct, definitions of civilian status, explicit prohibitions on slavery, forced processing, and population seizure. Clauses mandating evacuation corridors, medical access, and the treatment of surrendered personnel. Penalties outlined not as vengeance, but as process. Kethron scanned the headers and felt a deeper chill. These were not battlefield improvisations. They were codified, revised, tested. "We do not target non-combatants," the human said. "We do not fire on powered-down vessels. We do not kill prisoners." A standalone line followed, allowed to sit without emphasis. "We don't need to." Across the debris field, human ships adjusted positions, opening clear lanes toward Earth and away from the remaining Council clusters. Navigation beacons lit, broadcasting safe vectors. Medical frequencies opened. Automated drones detached, unarmed, drifting toward. Disabled hulls with transponder codes flashing unmistakable intent. Council tactical feeds erupted in noise. "They're exposing their flanks," one captain hissed. "It's a trap." But the sensors showed no trap. Weapons remained trained, but disciplined, tracking only active emitters. Missiles idled in cold racks. Rails spun down to standby. The broadcast continued. "Civilian populations are not leverage. Any attempt to remove, process, or coerce them will be met with immediate response. This is not negotiable." Kethron tasted the word as the translators rendered it. Not negotiable. Not a demand, a boundary. Numbers followed crisp and public. Evacuation capacity. 20 million civilians protected within projected engagement zones. Response windows measured in minutes, not hours. Enforcement ranges mapped with brutal clarity. The galaxy listened. Observers who had expected conquest saw restraint. Those who had profited from Council custodial programs saw their margins collapse in real time. The implications rippled outward faster than the debris. A Council legal delegate attempted to interject, citing heritage mandates and emergency authority. The human cut in without raising their voice. "Your law permits slavery," they said. "Ours forbids it." "Silence," answered. Another line, quieter but heavier. "This is the line we don't cross." Kethron looked at the casualty boards. 103 ships lost. Thousands of lives ended. And yet, thousands more spared because the humans had chosen to stop. He understood then that the demonstration had not been the killing, it had been the stopping. The broadcast concluded with instructions for surrender, boarding protocols, and assurances of fair trial under neutral observation. No threats, no countdown. Human ships held position, weapons disciplined, lanes open. The battle had shifted from force to frame, from destruction to consequence. Across the shared channel, the final line appeared, steady as before. "Power down. Hold position. You will be treated as prisoners of war." Kethron watched Council ships comply, one by one, because for the first time the humans had shown not just how they fought, but why. And the galaxy was recalculating accordingly. Readiness was not improvised. It was revealed. As Council ships powered down under human oversight, secondary channels opened, feeds not meant for the defeated alone. Analysts, observers, and neutral fleets received curated data drops, each tagged with timestamps reaching back decades. Humanity did not narrate them. It let the record speak. The first file showed drills, old ones, crews cycling through acceleration burns that would have blacked out untrained bodies. Formation changes practiced until they were reflex, not command. Hulls stripped, rebuilt, stripped. Again, not for aesthetics, but for stress tolerance measured in gravities the Council considered wasteful. A human voiceover appeared only to identify dates. Year -32. Year -19. Year -5. The implication landed without help. Another feed showed simulations. Council silhouettes rendered in wireframe, energy envelopes mapped and dissected, doctrinal assumptions highlighted, then broken. Engagements rerun millions of times until outcomes converged. The same note appeared on every file, assumed contact inevitable. Kethron watched in silence as understanding deepened into something heavier. The humans had not waited for invasion. They had planned for it. A third packet displayed shipyard footage, not grand orbital rings, but modular construction lines spread across multiple systems, identical hulls assembled in parallel components, interchangeable, crews cross-trained, losses anticipated, replacement cycles timed. 67 ships were not the fleet, they were the forward set. Another standalone line appeared on the open channel, human and unembellished. "We don't build symbols, we build tools." The feeds continued, joint exercises, with civilian evacuation authorities. 20 million capacity rehearsed again and again. Medical triage drills run under simulated radiation storms. Legal frameworks war-gamed alongside combat outcomes, ensuring the moment guns fell silent was not left to chance. This level of preparation. A council analyst began on a private channel, then stopped. There was no category for it. No, Doctrine accounted for a species that treated first contact as a certainty rather than a hope. One file closed with a simple metric: average crew combat experience, not in years. In engagements, survived. Kethron felt the weight of it settle. The humans had not fielded their most numerous ships. They had fielded their most practiced ones. Crews who knew exactly how much stress armor could take, how close they could push acceleration before bone and machinery failed, how to stop when stopping mattered. A human liaison finally spoke, addressing the observers rather than the prisoners. "You saw 67 hulls," they said. "What you didn't see were the rehearsals, the redundancies, and the assumption that this day would come." A pause. Then the line that mattered. "We were ready because we expected you." Across the battle space, surrender compliance ticked upward. Confusion gave way to recalculation. The Council's advantage, scale, had been met by something quieter and far more dangerous: preparation without announcement. Human ships held position, exactly where drills said they should. Rescue operations continued. Boarding teams moved. With procedural calm. Kethron understood now that the shock had never been the weapons or the speed. It was that the humans had treated this encounter as overdue. 6 hours was all it took to end resistance. Not in a rush. Not in a frenzy. 6 measured hours, during which the remaining Council ships learned what discipline looked like when applied without hatred. The humans advanced in phases, tightening the battle space like a net drawn with patience. Hour 1 began, with isolation. Human elements split not to chase, but to contain. Fast ships bracketed clusters of Council hulls, cutting off vectors with overlapping fields of denial. Missiles were not fired. Instead, sensor locks painted every active drive. The message was unspoken and unmistakable: you cannot leave. By the end of the first hour, 312 Council ships had powered down voluntarily. Hour 2 was dismantlement. Those that attempted coordinated movement found their formations surrounded before commands finished propagating. Human ships used acceleration in short, violent bursts, appearing on flanks and aft arcs where Council doctrine left blind spots. Railguns fired sparingly now, single shots, targeted at propulsion nodes and emitter spines. Disable, not destroy. Another 487 ships went dark. Casualties were counted. No additional kills were logged. Hour 3 tested resolve. A pocket of Council hardliners attempted a breakout, 37 ships burning drives at unsafe output, weapons charging in defiance. Human response was immediate and proportional. Missiles flooded the space ahead of them, detonating in calculated patterns that shredded guidance and fried sensors. 2 rail rounds followed, precise, ending the attempt. 37 icons blinked amber, then red. Drives offline. Hulls intact. A human stinger cut across the open channel, flat and final. This is not escalation. By the midpoint, surrender compliance exceeded 60%. The debris field stabilized, rescue operations expanded, human drones docked with disabled, EELs delivering power, atmosphere and medical aid under armed overwatch that never tightened into threat. Hour 4 was pressure. The humans closed the net further, compressing remaining Council elements into defined volumes measured in kilometers, not light seconds. Navigation beacons pulsed, marking safe corridors and forbidden zones. Any ship crossing the wrong line received immediate corrective fire, not lethal, but decisive. One Council cruiser fired in panic. Its shot dissipated harmlessly against layered armor. A human ship responded by shearing off the cruiser's emitter array with a single kinetic strike. Power down, it did. Numbers updated across the shared channel. Public and relentless. Disabled vessels, 1904. Powered down, 3221. Attempted resistance. Since hour 3, 0. Hour 5 broke the last illusion. Council command authority fractured under its own weight. Orders contradicted. Legal delegates argued over jurisdiction while human timers ticked forward without commentary. The humans did not hurry them. They did not slow. They waited. A final council formation, 80 ships clustered around a flagship, held out. Engines hot, weapons charged, but unfired. Kethron watched from his cradle as the humans encircled them at range. Perfect spacing, weapons trained but silent. Human transmission addressed only that cluster. You are contained, you are outmatched, you are out of time. A pause, then the line that ended it, we will wait you out. The council flagship powered down first. Hour 6 was silence. The last active. Emitter winked out. The last drive cooled. Across the battle space, only human ships maneuvered now, precise and controlled, shepherding wreckage, guarding lanes, tending the aftermath of dominance applied with restraint. Final tallies rolled in, total council ships. Neutralized, 6,823. Destroyed, 103. Disabled or surrendered, 6,720. Human ships lost. 0. The numbers spoke without embellishment. A final stinger appeared on the open channel, almost understated. 6 hours. That's all. Kethron watched the human fleet settle into holding patterns exactly as drilled, exactly as planned. No victory parade, no broadcast of triumph, just procedure continuing after force had done its work. Weapons cooled. Boarding. Operations expanded. Trials were scheduled. The war, such as it had been, was over. The silence that followed was not empty. It was heavy with consequence, echoing outward to every observer who had counted on chaos, cruelty, or collapse. Humanity had not erased the council fleet. It had rendered it irrelevant. The aftermath did not look like victory. Human boarding teams moved through disabled council ships with weapons lowered but ready, procedures crisp and identical across hulls of every design. Power was stabilized, atmosphere equalized. The wounded were treated first, regardless of uniform or species. Every action was recorded, time-stamped, and broadcast to neutral observers who had never expected to see this part. Prisoners were catalogued, not paraded. Admiral Kethron was escorted from his cradle under guard that neither hurried nor humiliated him. His restraints were light, functional. When he attempted to speak, a human officer met his gaze and answered before the question formed. "You are not in danger," she said. "You are in custody." Across the shared channel, humanity's terms were issued in full. Not demands, conditions. All council personnel were designated prisoners of war. No summary executions, no collective punishment. Legal counsel granted. Trials conducted under transparent statutes already distributed and reviewed by independent polities. Command responsibility defined clearly, with culpability assigned by action, not species. Civilian protections were reiterated, louder now. Processing facilities were declared illegal under human law and subject to immediate inspection. Populations previously marked for relocation were placed under temporary human protection, pending repatriation or asylum review. The numbers rippled outward. Millions removed from custody lists, entire supply chains halted. Economies built on custodial labor froze in real time. Observers reacted in phases, shock first, then disbelief, then calculation. Some governments protested, citing council authority and ancient accords. Humanity responded by publishing the accords' hidden annexes, slavery clauses, population quotas, casualty tolerances. The documents spread faster than rebuttals could form. "This is a violation of established order," a distant delegate protested on an open forum. A human reply followed, unadorned. Then the order was already broken. Kethron watched. From a holding chamber, as feeds showed council worlds erupting into political fracture. Member species demanded explanations. Protectorates demanded release. The myth of benevolent oversight collapsed under its own documentation. Human ships remained where they were, guarding lanes, enforcing ceasefire conditions with the same discipline they had used in battle. No expansion followed. No claims were staked. Earth's boundary remained exactly where it had been drawn. A final address was issued, shorter than the rest. "We do not seek dominion," the human voice said. "We seek accountability. Those responsible will answer. Those coerced will be protected." This applies until the last case is heard. Silence followed. Not the stunned silence of defeat, but the heavy quiet of systems forced to adapt. Kethron understood then that mercy was not an afterthought. It was the final proof of dominance. Killing would have been easier. Fear would have been faster. Humanity had chosen the harder path because it could afford to. As guards escorted him onward toward trial, Kethron looked back once at the human ships holding station amid the wreckage. They had not come to collect relics. They had come to close a chapter and to make sure it stayed closed. Victory settled into routine with unsettling speed. Human ships transitioned from combat posture to patrol geometry, lanes redrawn as borders, rather than traps. Boarding operations gave way to logistics. Trials calendars populated, aid convoys moved. The galaxy adjusted, because it had to. Earth remained untouched. No banners were raised. No claims extended beyond the line already declared. 67 ships held station for another 48 hours, then rotated out in pairs, replaced by relief. Elements just as disciplined, just as unremarkable. Observers took notes, governments recalculated. The word human acquired weight. It was during the third quiet cycle that the sensors spoke. A deep-range array, slaved to no battle network and tuned. For anomalies rather than threats, registered movement beyond mapped space. Not fast. Not loud, persistent. The signature did not match council hulls or any known independent design. Distance, outer rim plus 12%. Velocity, subluminal, steady. Mass readings, uncertain, too smooth. The alert propagated without urgency. Humans had learned the cost of panic. Analysts cross-checked archives, reaching back before council formation. The patterns did not resolve. No trade routes aligned, no exploration logs matched. The movement did not scatter when observed. It continued. A quiet briefing followed, internal only. The tone was the same as it had been throughout the war. Calm, surgical, unshakable. "This is not a council remnant," one analyst said, "and it is not turning away." No orders were rushed, no fleets redeployed in haste. Preparations began the same way they always had. Drills updated, models rerun, assumptions challenged. The human response to uncertainty was not fear, it was, on an open channel meant for history rather than threat, humanity issued one final message to the galaxy. It was shorter than the others. "Our space remains sovereign," the voice said. "Our civilians remain non-negotiable. What comes next will be met with the same clarity." No mention was made of the sensor data. Those who knew. Kethron, awaiting trial light years away, received the report through permitted channels. For the first time since defeat, his thoughts were not on law or loss. They were on scale. The humans had not fought like a species meeting its end. They had fought like one clearing its perimeter. Far beyond the rim, the unknown movement continued, unhurried and unannounced, and humanity, having closed one chapter without triumph or terror, quietly prepared to open the next.